Hi, IDC Church family. Pastor Shane here. I wanted to make a quick video introducing something we'll try to do several times, which is to introduce and recommend to you books that we have found kind of transformative in our own lives. So we'll have different people come on and share books that they have really been impacted by and transformed by, and in the Lord's providence He's just used to grow us. But I'm going to start off by introducing you to a book that has been really helpful for me, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, and it is this book by Mark Dever called Discipling, and the subtitle is How to Help Others Follow Jesus. This is one of the short, little, small, hardback books in the 9 Marks Building Healthy Churches little series of books. They've got all kinds of topics in this format, and I'm just going to give you a few reasons that I find this to be a really helpful book, and I really encourage you to consider checking it out. The first is that it's very short and very easy to read. That's kind of how they've designed these. It is a quick read, but a very helpful, clear, concise treatment on discipling others and making disciples. And so if a lot of times we can make this a very kind of complex and daunting topic to think about how do we make disciples, but I think in a helpful way, Dever provides a little bit of concision and just gives you a good starting place. The second reason I find this to be really helpful is because it gives as kind of its core idea a very simple, broad definition of discipling. It's in the subtitle there, How to Help Others Follow Jesus. His basic idea is that the work of discipling is that we get to intentionally do others spiritual good, is the language that he uses, to help somebody else look more like and follow Jesus. And I just love how, first of all, how simple that is. It's very helpful to realize that there's a lot of other clutter that we can import into discipling, but at its core, it is helping other people to be Christians, right? Helping others to follow Jesus. And then part of that is our intentionality and just doing people spiritual good. Me serving other people and spurring them on in their walk with Christ. And then the breadth of it, right? This is something that would apply to new believers, old believers, even how I think about approaching lost people is in some way still me trying to help them follow Jesus. And the best way to approach an unbeliever and help them follow Jesus is to share the gospel with them. And so that's kind of the right move to make to help them follow Jesus. But even if I'm engaging a new believer, I still want to help them follow Jesus, maybe by introducing them to the faith or helping them learn how to study the Bible or helping them think about what obedience to Christ looks like. There are all kinds of things and honestly 1,000 topics that can be brought in, but the core unifying idea is I want to help them follow Jesus. Older saints, mature believers, they still need help following Jesus, and we get to help disciple one another. And so I just love the simplicity and the breadth of that definition, and he kind of teases out how that works itself out. Another reason I love this is this book is just the emphasis on intentionality. He talks about deliberately doing spiritual good. This is not something we just fall into. In fact, we can go through a lot of the motions of the Christian life and the Christian life being lived with one another and never do it with intentionality. Never with intentionality be Christians with one another. And he's saying, let's deliberately, as we live out the Christian life, let's deliberately help one another in following Christ, which means on Sunday mornings when I pass people in the hallway, I can deliberately do them spiritual good. When I get together with my small group, I can deliberately do spiritual good. In my family, I can deliberately do spiritual good. And all of that is geared towards helping people follow Jesus. And so Dever has this kind of repeated emphasis on us being intentional and purposeful in that. Another reason that I really like this book is that it's not really reduced to a particular model of discipling. A lot of times people will maybe fall into recommending discipleship needs to be maybe a mentoring relationship, or you need to get in triads and there needs to be 3 people, or discipling needs to happen in a small group in a particular way, or it always has to be over a cup of Starbucks or something like that. Believe it or not, that's not in the Bible, and he helps us realize that the breadth of this definition, it being helping people follow Jesus, It doesn't really need to fit into one particular model. In fact, if you're a follower of Jesus, you've probably been discipled by lots of different people in lots of different contexts in lots of different kind of models. And I don't think we have to say any of those is a mistake or the ideal. We can just say these are different things that the Lord has used and people have used to disciple us and help us follow Jesus. Now, that doesn't mean that there's never an extra need for wisdom and discernment to figure out what's the best way to go about discipling somebody. But we don't have to reduce discipleship to a particular model, especially like mentoring or something like that. We can disciple all the time, lots of people, even just passing one-on-one conversations, one-off conversations. I can intentionally do spiritual good. There's no model there. There's no program. There's no kind of rubric or curriculum that I'm walking through and kind of checking, all right, we covered this, we covered this. I can always be doing people spiritual good. And then there also is room for having some kind of program or material that you're working through. And so not one particular model. Another reason I love this book, as you would expect if you're familiar with Mark Dever or Nine Marks Ministries, is the emphasis on the local church. The local church being both the context in which discipling is meant to happen most regularly for the Christian, the local church being an agent in the discipleship of us as followers of Jesus, how even our involvement in the local church is meant to, by God to be the primary discipling influence in our lives is our regular gathering with the saints, our sharing our lives with one another, our breaking bread together. This is all things that the Lord is using to help us grow to follow Jesus more. But then he also talks about the church as needing to have a culture of discipling, where we create an environment where the members of the local church are collectively always on the lookout for ways that they can do spiritual good to one another and help one another follow Jesus. That doesn't not being necessarily a program, but a culture where we're always just kind of got our eyes open for how we can share, encourage one another and share the gospel with one another. How we can spur one another on towards faithfulness there. So I think it's just incredibly helpful. It's very simple and again kind of demystifying in a lot of ways where we make discipleship really complicated. And then the reason I just really appreciate this book is the emphasis on Christ. Discipling is helping people follow Jesus. It's not really helping people follow me. It's not really helping people get a particular model of ministry. It's not primarily helping people understand how I follow Jesus. It's pointing them to Christ and saying, you chase after him, pursue him. And so Christ is the content of our discipling. It is all focused on him, not on the discipler. It's not on the one who's trying to do spiritual good. I'm doing spiritual good unto someone else, and that being Christ. And then also how because there's kind of this almost anarchy with some discipling, right? Everyone's discipling everybody all the time. It's not always real systematic. It really reminds us that the one who is discipling us, the one who is ultimately the agent in all of our discipleship is Jesus himself. He is the one who is bringing to completion the work that he has begun in us. And so it just reminds us that we don't have to be the ones in control. Jesus is the one who has committed to bring us home. And so we as followers of Jesus just get to be kind of helpers with one another as we kind of fellow travelers helping one another as we're all pursuing Christ, recognizing that if maybe I get to disciple somebody from one particular season, maybe just a couple years, maybe just a couple months, maybe just a couple days, well, that's the role I get to play. Jesus is going to take it from here, and so we don't have to bear the burden on our own shoulders of bringing everybody to full discipleship, if you will. We are not the ones who are completing people into the image of Christ. Jesus is the one who's doing that. So I love this little book. Like I said, it's very the word I often use is demystifying. It kind of clears a lot of the clutter for discipling and discipleship. And so if you like, especially if you're during coronavirus, you're kind of locked in and you like an easy, simple read to think about how can I even now be discipling, this would be a great place to just encourage you and spur you on towards investing in brothers and sisters, investing in the lost to spur them on towards Christ, just depending on what it looks like in each of those stages. So hope you pick it up. If you'd like to talk about it, feel free to shoot me an email. I'd love to kind of geek out with you a little bit more, but this would be a great read for any of our church members. Hope that helps.